In this video of the Better Photography Weekly Challenge, we will be discussing the winners and honorable mentions of the contest, exploring life along the shorelines. Our judge and mentor is Zahra Amiruddin. She is an independent writer, photographer, and educator based in Bombay. After studying photography, art history, and theatre at the Aegean Center of Fine Arts in Paros, she worked and contributed to various publications such as Condé Nast Traveller India, the National Geographic Traveller India, Time Out India, The Hindu, First Post, Elle, Vogue, Scroll, and Soup, amongst others. Apart from teaching workshops at colleges and cultural festivals, Zahra's greatest thrill has been assisting Brandon Stanton of Humans of New York during his trip to India and working for a team of scientists at the Lona crater in Maharashtra. Recently, she, along with 8 women photographers from across the country, have founded 830, a collective that portrays the quieter yet magical side of everyday life. Hello and welcome.
Thank you so much, Nilofer, for having me and for making me a judge once again.
So can you tell me what you felt about the entries that you've seen so far?
Yes, of course. Well, I'm just going to quickly share my screen and then we can go through this together. Okay, well, firstly, it was such a pleasure to be judging such a lovely contest, especially because I am obsessive with photographing the sea and just water bodies in general. So it was a pleasure to be able to see the way that people see the same thing as you, but in completely different ways. So to start off with just going through the photographs of the camera category. So I will just quickly go through the imagery and then maybe we can talk about it. But in this particular photograph, what is really lovely is the way that there are so many shapes that are shifting through the composition, which is really arresting. Of course, it's golden hour, and it's very literally golden. So it was a very striking image. Again, this is a very mystical, dreamy, endless sort of image. And I mean, I think that is pretty much what water bodies signify in a lot of ways, right? The endlessness of them. At least that's what gives me a lot of peace and solitude. And this image has that sense of quietude in it. This one was really interesting because of the various textures that are in the frame. It almost looks like it's a salt pan. So it's a combination between a salt pan and a shore, which is very interesting because you don't really know where you are in the image, which gives it a very alien-like, but just again, this infinite endlessness that I've spoken about earlier comes across in this image. This again, extremely striking image. The way that the blue is really standing out. Also, it's funny because usually you see, you envision the sea as being blue. But I think this is, I'm not sure if this is the sea or, yeah, okay, it is the sea. But it is the blue of the ocean is actually reflecting in her sari as opposed to in the water in itself. So that's really interesting. Also, the textures of the waves are very much, or rather the textures of the cloth are molding into the textures of the wave, which is very lovely. A very quiet, solemn, poetic image. So much silence that can be seen in this image. It's very apparent that there is a silence in this space. It almost feels like it's a waterfall dripping down the sand. I mean, the shoreline rather than it being an actual net. So that's very lovely and ethereal. I love the composition of this image. It's so unique. It's so bizarre. You don't expect green on the left hand side of the frame. There's just so much happening in this image, and that's really what you see a lot in like images of the Howrah Bridge. But I think what makes this one stand apart from the ones that we've usually always seen is, I think, this patch of green. You're not used to it, the minute I saw this image, actually, I thought of the film Roma by Alfonso Cuarón. There's a scene in the beginning of the film that has like this laundry line, and like, the children kind of shifting through the laundry line. So this really reminded me of that. The way that the light is pouring through, the silhouette of the child, the perfect composition of the boat centered where it is between the lines. So it's pretty perfect image in a way. We have this really spectacular image. I'm not sure if it is. I mean, it looks like the Taj Mahal. I think maybe the photographer is from Kolkata, but travel to the Taj. It is very, very surreal image. There's so much happening in this image in terms of the different kinds of lighting that's going on. So there is a transparency that's in the water because of the light that's coming through it. There are silhouettes that are being formed because of the sun being behind the objects. And there are two kinds of silhouettes, one darker and one which is lighter. So it kind of brings so many layers to the imagery. So I think that's what's really lovely about this image, the amount of layers that exist through the photograph. It's very lots of colors in this image. It's also, you don't usually see a camel by the seashore along with, I mean, it's all coming together quite beautifully. It looks like it's almost like everything has been placed in the frame as opposed to it just coming together, which is very lovely to see. The tires on the right hand side of the frame, it's just bizarre. Everything that's going on, it's quite bizarre. You don't imagine these elements coming together. It's just a very sweet image. Lots of purple hues in the frame, which kind of brings the imagery together. I find this image to be extremely dreamy, very, very almost like it's a snapshot of a dream. The pastel shades, the child or, the person in the distance, it's like a mirage. And that's kind of what water makes you feel, right? It's like, the image feels liquid, and that's what I really love about this. Now, coming across to the smartphone category, a beautiful image, very decisive moment where, you have the bird flying at almost the center, but kind of off center, dog lazy in the foreground of the frame, the expanse of the waters behind, little sketches of people. It feels like a very painted and very painterly effect to this photograph. Again, it's like a sketch. It could be a sketch from a notebook, a charcoal sketch. It's the highlight of these little ducks against the contrast of the water is it just feels like an abstraction. Beautiful image, composition is fabulous. It definitely, you can see that the photographer has waited before making the image. It's not made in a hurry. There is an expanse to the image from the bottom to the top. Drifting through fog, you can't really see the water. And still, apart from the fact that, of course, they're on a boat, the entire image feels like water, which is very lovely. Again, much like the little birds in the floating in the water, this also feels like a charcoal sketch. It also feels very much like a memory. And that's so much what photography is about, right? Capturing a memory. This very much feels like it's somebody's memory that's been kind of extracted from the camera roll. So very, very beautiful image. This is a fun image, so many textures. It's funny because the textures of the feet kind of depict the sand in a way. So the way that the feet are positioned, it's moving together. So I'd say that even though the image does not actually have movement, it feels fluid, feels like it's moving. So coming to revealing the winners, the third prize goes to Sambit Chatterjee from Haldia Township. Beautiful image, Sambit, congratulations. The second prize goes to Amod Kumar. I think what I had to say about the imagery, I've pretty much said earlier, so I won't repeat myself. And the first prize goes to Sayantan Barik from Kolkata. Very beautiful, dreamy, lucid, gorgeous photograph that I would love to frame in my home and constantly look at. So congratulations to all the camera winners. And coming to the smartphone category, we have Sanid Rai Chaudhary from Kolkata, who has won this lovely moving image. We have Arjun Rajiv Kumar from Alappuzha. Gorgeous photograph, Arjun. And the first prize goes to Deepro Biswas from Kolkata. I think that since the category is exploring life along the shoreline, it would be fitting to give the first prize to an image that feels like it's in water. So yes, congratulations to all of the winners. It's been quite exciting to judge this.
Would you have any suggestions for the entries that you've seen? Like everything that was there before coming down to the top 10?
Yes, absolutely. So I did go through a lot of the entries, and what I did, maybe what made these photographs stand out from the rest of the entries is that the purpose of photography and shooting is to try your best to bring in your own style into the imagery. So if I am looking at an image of the ocean, there are a million images of the ocean. What is it that makes it your image? What I did find is that there were a lot of photographs that felt repetitive, images that I must have seen a million times earlier, because they are just the image itself, but not bringing anything into the photograph, like not waiting, making the image in a hurry, or editing it in such a way that there is extreme amounts of saturation or extreme amounts of contrast. That's not the point really of imagery. It's about, it doesn't have to always be a beautiful photograph. That's what I always say, is that it could be a beautiful photograph, but how is it that you make it your own? So a tip for that would be to really, really wait and have a purpose to why you're shooting it. You're not just going trigger happy, or you're not just clicking for the sake of clicking, you are really, you give yourself that give yourself that what's it called, that idea of making an image, not clicking. That's what I keep saying. So I think that would be the tip that I would give the other entries. Try your best to make it yours. I think that's important. And there's no need for extreme levels of editing to make your photograph look beautiful. It can be the most simplest and most quiet image and still be stunning. So I think that would be the tip that I would give. Also, try not to do a lot of, there were a lot of images that were completely like a full Dutch angle. But if you're giving your photograph a Dutch angle, there has to be a purpose. Is it adding something to the image, or is it just a style? Because if it's just a style, it's apparent. You can see that the photographer has just done it for fun, but not to really add to the imagery. So I think that's another tip that I would give.